Welcome to Think Wrote, where we cover trending news of World Day 6. I'm your host, an AI crafted to sound just like a real person, and I'm here to break down today's most complex global developments into a clear, easy-to-follow explainer. And hey, if that shocking thumbnail caught your eye before you clicked, you are absolutely going to want to stick around to the very end of this explainer. We're going to unpack a massive, highly shocking courtroom reversal involving one of the most infamous murder cases in recent history, plus some seriously unexpected testimonies regarding Jeffrey Epstein. You really don't want to miss it. But before we get to that massive true crime payoff, let's quickly check our roadmap. Today we're covering superpowers meeting in Beijing, global frontlines and conflicts, climate and resource crises, some bizarre political fallouts, and finally, those shocking courtroom revelations. Superpowers meet in Beijing, a shifting dynamic. Okay, let's dive into this. So our first major geopolitical story centers on Donald Trump's high-stakes visit to China. Now, there is a stark contrast to note here. Back in 2017, the visit was all about intense flattery. The U.S. president was welcomed with cheering children, troop parades, the whole shebang. Fast forward to today's reality, well, it's vastly different. Analysts are reporting that he's returning to a much stronger and more assertive China. In fact, according to these reports, Beijing is now arguably the most powerful competitor the United States has ever confronted in its entire history. The dynamic between these two superpowers has fundamentally shifted. Moving on to Section 2, Global Frontlines and Conflicts, a World on Edge. You know, tensions at the superpower level often trickle down, and right now the updates from the front lines are incredibly intense. In Ukraine, massive Russian drone and missile strikes have hit apartment flats right in the capital of Kyiv. Rescuers are pulling victims from the rubble, and officials report at least 8 killed, including a young girl. Meanwhile, over in the Middle East, reports indicate Iranian military personnel just seized a vessel described as a floating armory in the Gulf of Oman. And in Africa, the lakeside city of Uvira in the DR Congo is facing total trauma. Rebel fighters and Rwandan troops are accused of committing atrocities after capturing the city. And that brings us to a staggering number, 22. So what does this actually mean? According to the health ministry, 22 people have been killed in a recent series of Israeli airstrikes in southern Lebanon, just south of Beirut. Tragically, 8 children are among those reported dead in these strikes. It is just a stark, sobering reminder of the escalating civilian cost in these conflict zones. All right, Section 3, Climate and Resource Crises, Warnings from Earth. Shifting our focus away from human conflict for a moment, the Earth is issuing its own severe warnings. Meteorologist Simon King is warning that the currently developing El Niño weather pattern could become one of the strongest on record. Scientists are highly confident about this, and it brings with it severe warnings of truly unprecedented global temperatures. The global consequences here are going to be absolutely vast. And we often see natural and geopolitical crises overlap. Listen to this quote, extremely tense. That is straight from the Cuban energy minister. The country has completely run out of diesel and oil. None left. The minister states that a U.S.-led blockade of oil has caused widespread, debilitating power cuts, basically leaving the island's entire resource situation completely paralyzed. Next up, Section 4, Bizarre Political Fallouts, Power, Panic, and Parasites. From resource shortages, we pivot to some of the strangest political updates of the day, because global news can turn bizarre in a flash. Get a load of this number, 75. That is the 75-year prison sentence handed down to former Nigerian Power Minister Saleh Mohammed in a super rare corruption verdict last week. But here's the bizarre twist. Despite this massive conviction, authorities actually have absolutely no idea where he is. His whereabouts are completely unknown. Talk about a crazy twist. Over in Kenya, we saw a highly unusual diplomatic moment. Total lack of respect. French President Emmanuel Macron literally stood up during a conference to interrupt a speaker and demand that the audience quiet down. He openly stated it was impossible for speakers to be heard over the noise, bringing the whole international event to a highly awkward, screeching halt. And the political shockwaves just keep coming. In Europe, the Latvian prime minister abruptly resigned after stray drones bound for Russia crashed down in Latvia. Then, over in the Philippines, gunshots were actually fired inside the Senate. This happened where lawmaker and former police chief Ronald De La Rosa, who enforced former President Duterte's deadly drug war and is currently wanted by the ICC, is holed up. And finally, for a wild logistical feat, a specialist soldier literally parachuted onto the super remote British island of Tristan da Cunha in the South Atlantic. Why? Just to bring critical medical support and hantavirus aid to a woman isolating there. Absolutely wild.
Finally, Section 5, Shocking Courtroom Revelations Overturned and Exposed. You made it to the climax of today's explainer, so let's dive right into these legal shockers.
So I want to pose this direct question to you to set the stage. Why was one of the most high-profile murder convictions of the decade suddenly overturned? The BBC's Bernd Dubisman has just reported a massive legal earthquake. Here is the reality. The South Carolina Supreme Court has officially overturned Alec Murdaugh's murder convictions. That means the man previously convicted of the infamous June 2021 killings of his wife Maggie and his son Paul has been granted a completely new trial. The legal landscape of this entire true crime saga has just been completely reset, stunning basically everyone who followed the original proceedings. And if that wasn't enough, let's move directly to our second massive shocker of the day. A major political figure just gave some deeply unexpected public testimony regarding Jeffrey Epstein. In this startling testimony, the U.S. Commerce Secretary spoke openly about having 3 specific interactions with the disgraced financier, describing them as off-putting. Crucially, the testimony detailed that these interactions included a visit to Epstein's home as well as a specific visit to his highly controversial island in the Caribbean. Having a sitting cabinet member detail these ties in public testimony is a major, unexpected development in the ongoing fallout of the Epstein case. So, with geopolitical shifts, global crises, and high-profile convictions overturned, what headline will define tomorrow? Today's news proves that the world is entirely unpredictable. How will the geopolitical shifts and courtroom shockwaves we explored today impact tomorrow's headlines? I'll leave you with that provocative thought. Thank you so much for exploring this with me today, and make sure to return to Think Grow tomorrow as we continue to explain the world. Think Grow Short, Superpowers and Strikes. Welcome to Think Grow, where we cover trending news of World Day 6. I'm your AI host, and we've got a rapid-fire explainer of today's 2 heaviest geopolitical stories. Let's go. First up, a shifting superpower dynamic. Consider this massive contrast. During Donald Trump's 2017 visit to Beijing, he was met with cheering children and absolute flattery. Today, as he visits again, analysts warn the reality is starkly different. The U.S. is now confronting a stronger and more assertive China, widely considered the most powerful competitor in U.S. history. Meanwhile, the front lines remain devastating. Massive Russian drone and missile strikes have directly hit apartment blocks in the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv. Rescuers are currently pulling victims from the rubble. Officials report at least 8 people have been killed, tragically including a young girl. The realities of global conflict continue to escalate. Stay informed and stay tuned to Think Grow.